Most near-death experiences share a familiar sequence. People see themselves hovering above their hospital bed, followed by a sudden pull into a dark tunnel toward a blindingly white light. The stories almost always end at that threshold. Accounts of what sits on the other side are rare, because crossing that light usually marks a permanent biological end. But in 1987, 21-year-old John Davis crossed that line. It began with an ordinary accident. He was riding a moped his father won in a sales contest, crashed into a tree, and tore the tendons in his right hand. He went in for a routine surgery to reattach the tendons, but as the team administered the anesthesia, John suffered a severe allergic reaction. His heart stopped. He was pronounced dead for 7 minutes. Yet, in a realm where time has no meaning, those 7 earthly minutes expanded into what felt like a journey lasting over an hour. These 7 clinical minutes served as a guided expedition into the functional, physical infrastructure of the afterlife. John opened his eyes to find himself inside a massive building made of white marble. He wasn't in a void. He was standing in a structured corridor, lined with columns and long marble tables. A spirit guide named Alan met him and explained that this was an orientation center. He pointed out counselors sitting at the tables, whose job is to help newly arrived souls overcome the amnesia of their earthly lives. John watched an elderly man arrive through a nearby tunnel, clutching his chest from a fatal heart attack. As a counselor took his hands and welcomed him home, the man physically changed, reverting to a healthy, optimal age of about 30. After this orientation, the guide led him down a set of stone stairs and out into a sprawling, perfectly manicured English-style garden. These gardens act as a designated physical location for reunions. It's here that newly oriented souls are greeted by the family, friends, and siblings who passed away before them. This intake process suggests the afterlife is a highly organized system, one specifically designed to help human consciousness detach from its physical identity. Next, the tour moved to the first of several analytical structures, a round building that functioned as a theater for the life review. Inside, movie screens lined the walls in a complete circle. They all lit up at once, showing simultaneous stages of John's life, from his time as an infant and an adolescent to the moment he arrived in the hospital. The guide then took him to a separate Greek-style marble building. This theater featured only a single screen, and it was dedicated to showing past lifetimes. John was shown 3 previous lives: a monk in a monastery, a shoe peddler with a wheelbarrow, and a fisherman catching fish. John had been raised Catholic, attending church several times a week. The revelation of these past lives stood in direct opposition to the theology he had been taught since childhood. According to his guide, these theaters serve a specific purpose. They demonstrate that iterative lifetimes across different eras are a mechanism for complete human growth. The infrastructure became even larger as they entered a stadium-sized planetarium used for cosmic education. Looking up at the ceiling, John saw our solar system projected in vivid detail. He was shown the bands of Jupiter and the context of Earth within our local universe. Then the scope expanded. The ceiling filled with millions of other planets teeming with unique life forms, illustrating that Earth is only one of many places where a soul can experience a lifetime. The tour concluded at 2 final historical centers, a colossal library and a medieval castle. Inside the library, John saw souls acting as scholars. One woman sat at a flat-screen monitor reviewing a battle between Native American tribes and the U.S. cavalry that had taken place 2 centuries earlier. The castle housed royal archives, where paintings of historical figures lined the walls. Beneath each portrait, like this one of Queen Elizabeth II, sat a book containing the full text of that person's life. These archives allow any soul to study the timeline of any historical figure, from Queen Elizabeth to King George VI. These facilities indicate that the afterlife functions as an academic center, satisfying a drive to learn and grow that remains even after the body dies. The architectural tour ended abruptly. Alan left, and John found himself standing in a field of brightly colored flowers. A radiant figure appeared, his face obscured by a brilliant light. He spoke a single imperative command to John: "You must tell them there is no death." Immediately after those words, John felt a violent physical snap. He was instantly back in his body in the operating room. He opened his eyes to see the surgical team looking down at him. They had just used defibrillator paddles on his chest for the 6th time to restart his heart. To John, these 7 minutes revealed a reality where death is not a final curtain. His account depicts a transition into a highly organized system of continued human growth and study.